Hello there and welcome. My name is Bob Proctor. I got up this morning and I picked up my phone and I looked and I had a quote on it by Dr. Seuss. He said, "To the world you may be one person, but to one person you may be the world." I read that and I looked at it and I read it again. To the world you may be one person, but to one person, you may be the world. And my mind went back, bang, like that, to 1961. I met a man, his name was Ray Stanford. Ray Stanford literally changed the direction of my life. I was a very lost soul. I was 26, only 2 months high school education, dumb jobs, factories, bars. And he said, "Bob, why don't you change the results you're getting?" He didn't know me real well, but he could see I was losing. And it never entered my mind I could change my results. He said, "Do you read anything?" I said, "No, I can't read." Now, that wasn't true. I could, but not well. I have since found out I read about as well as most people. The average person reads at about a grade 7 level. And from that point on, they never improve upon their skill of reading. He gave me this book, and he said, the author of this book, Napoleon Hill, spent his entire life studying 500 of the world's most accomplished individuals. And he put what he learned in this book. He said, "I think it would be a prudent move on your part if you spent the rest of your life attempting to understand and apply what he wrote." Now, as strange as it may seem, that's exactly what I have done. From the time I was 26 until today, I'm 86. I have read that book every day, a little bit. I devoured it at first. See, I got a lot of stick around it because it's fallen apart. My assistant, Gina, who's worked with me now for 34 years, she wanted to take it and have it all rebound. And I said, "Oh, no, Gina, don't. Don't change the energy of the book." Well, everything in my life changed so dramatically. I started cleaning an office, and all of a sudden I was cleaning offices in Toronto, Montreal, Boston, Cleveland, Atlanta, and London, England. Over a 5-year period, my life changed like night and day. And I was living in England. I was earning over $1 million a year, and I was being very, very irresponsible. I'd go down to the Playboy Club on Park Lane, and I'd play roulette. I didn't care if I lost because I knew where the money was. And one day, it was like I had a euphoric experience. Something just stopped me in my tracks. And it was like a little voice in my head said, "You're being totally irresponsible, Proctor." And I started to ask myself, how did this happen? How did I become so successful? Because I had struggled all my life up to the point I was 26. And I couldn't answer the question. I've been raised to believe if you're going to earn a lot of money, you've got to be really smart. Well, I knew I wasn't very smart, but I was earning a lot of money. I was raised to believe if you don't go to school, you can't win. Well, I hadn't gone to school. I wasn't winning. I owned the whole company. And I couldn't get anybody to explain how did a guy with no formal education, going in the wrong direction, bang, just like that, turn around and start going in the right direction. And I thought somebody has to know, and I'm going to figure it out. And so I began to study, and I never stopped. I would go anywhere to gain an understanding of why we do what we do and why we don't do many of the things we want to do. And I found out there's only 5, 6, 7% of the population that really live the good life. We're God's highest form of creation, and yet we act like we don't know the war's over. As a people, I'm talking about the masses, a good 90% of the population. Here I had changed and I didn't know why. So I was non-transferable. I couldn't tell anybody how to do what I had done. Took me 9.5 years, and when I got the dots to connect and I found out why I changed, I made up my mind I was going to spend the rest of my life teaching this. And that's exactly what I did. I divested myself of the company, and I went and I got a job in Chicago with Earl Nightingale and Lloyd Kuna at the Nightingale Kuna Corporation. Here I went from over $1 million a year. I took a job for $18,000 a year. I was prepared to pay them to let me work there. I wanted to study them. I wanted to find out what made me tick. And I have never stopped. Now, I went to work for them, and then I went out and I started my own company. You see, we were at the Nightingale Kuna Corporation, we were selling success programs. We'd sell them. It was on record at first, and then on cassette. And I did that for 5 years, and I was doing very well. But the people I was selling the programs to, they weren't changing. And I realized that just getting this material wasn't enough. You had to be taught how to use it. So I went to Lloyd Kuna and I said, Lloyd, why don't we quit selling recorded programs, start to give them away? We'll teach a seminar and teach how to use those programs. No, he said, Bobby, we're staying in the cassette business. Leave the seminar business to Carnegie. So I thought, no, it was time for me to leave. I left and I sat down in a house on Maplewood Lane in Glenview, Illinois. And I took my pen and I said, I'm going to build a company that operates all over the world. Today, the Proctor Gallagher Institute operates in 89 different countries. I'm sitting here in our studio, and we can broadcast all over the world. It's like this mini TV station we have. Just recently, we broadcast to 119 countries, a few thousand people, teaching a seminar on the science of getting rich. It's fascinating information. Well, after working at this for about 22, 23 years, I wrote this book called You Were Born Rich. And the idea behind this is that everybody's born rich. Most people are just a little short of money. You've got deep reservoirs of talent and ability within you. The trick is to figure out how to bring it to the surface. Now, that was put together after studying and working with this for 20-some years. But that was 36 years ago I wrote this. I have never stopped studying this information. In a matter of 2-3 weeks, I'm going to be running a master class. I'm going to take a group of people who are seriously interested in changing the direction of their life, compounding whatever success they're enjoying. And I'm going to work with them every week for 6 months. And I'm going to teach what's in this book that I've continued to study for another 36 years. Now, I want to go through the subject matter that's in this book. Here, the first chapter is me and money. And I put that as the first chapter because I sat down when I decided to write the book and I segmented all the changes that I took place, trying to get the dots to connect. Steve Jobs says you cannot connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking back. So I look back. Where did I start and what happened? And what happened was I started to understand something about money. I never had any. I always needed money. Well, I learned quite a bit about money. And that's why the first part of this is on money. We'll be studying that for a couple of weeks itself. Let me ask you a question. How many sources of income do you have? Do you know that wealthy people dating right back to the ancient Babylonians have always had multiple sources of income? All last night while I was sleeping, I was earning money. You can earn more money when you're sleeping than you can spend when you're awake. Now that may sound like an exaggerated statement, but it's really not. You see, you don't go to work to earn money. You go to work for satisfaction. You provide service to earn money. And when you can find a way to provide service all over the world You'll have money coming in from all over the world. I provide service all over the world, and I can show you how to do it. And in this first chapter, we'll do that. We even got a company to help you do that. Me and money. Prosperity consciousness. Prosperity consciousness. This is not taught in school. You can go right through our educational system and learn absolutely nothing about earning money. I find this subject absolutely fascinating, and I'm going to tell you, you will too. Ask yourself this: do you have more money than you need? Well, the next chapter in it is how much is enough. I'll tell you how much is enough. When you've got enough money to live the way you choose to live, for as long as you think you're going to live, then you've got enough. Most people don't know how much is enough. They really do not know. How do you really want to live? Because you're quite capable of doing it. How do you really want to live? See, I'm living today the way I really want to live. Man, I live a wonderful life. I'm 86. I got the energy of a 36 or a 56-year-old, and I work all over the world. Everyone can. When you never have to think about money, you'll be amazed how much free time you have. So the first two chapters, me and money, and the second, how much is enough. You're going to find these fascinating. Now think of this for a moment. If I was working with you every week for 6 months, 2 hours a week, you'll be given this book. Here it is here, in this format. You're going to receive it in this format. This is a beautifully leather-bound book. You'll have your name inscribed in gold here, and it will be an autographed copy. You'll also be given a ring binder with exercises in it, because we're going to study this for an hour, and then we're going to get into exercises for an hour. Every week. You'll have exercises to do through the week. I guarantee you, your life as far as money will change almost right away. Now think. The third chapter is the image maker. Do you know that everything, this phone, this book, this sand timer, it was an image in someone's mind before it ever became a thing. Thoughts become things. This pen, I remember the first ballpoint pen I ever saw. My grandfather, on my father's side, came to live with us in 1946 for a few months. I was just a little boy. It was after the end of the Second World War. My dad had come back from fighting in Europe, and he brought his father to live with us for a little while. Grandpa Proctor saw something in a magazine. He wrote away for it, and he got a ballpoint pen. Up till then, we had to load pens with ink, and the ink was generally all over the place. Or we'd dip and nib in an inkwell to write with. Now, the first pen, the first ballpoint pen I saw, it skipped all over the place. The ink would run, then it would stop, it would start. Today, the ink flows freely. But you know, that first ballpoint pen and this ballpoint pen, they were both just images. Then they improve upon it from that point on, the image maker. Everything, this studio, your house, the clothes you're wearing, the jewelry you may have, all started out as an image. You and I are image makers. We have mental faculties. Do you know that you and I are the only creature on the planet that is totally disoriented in their environment? Do you know all the other little creatures on the planet are completely at home in their environment? They blend in. You and I, totally disoriented in environment, we don't blend in. You see, they operate by instinct, which is perfect. We've been given higher faculties. We do not blend into our environment. We've been given the ability to create our own environment. We are truly God's highest form of creation. And the images we build in our mind, we can move into physical form. That's how everything starts. Everything starts in the form of an image. Well, we're going to spend time talking about the image maker. That's very important. The next chapter is let go and let God. God does all the work. Now, most people's religious education is pretty shallow. Mine is, but my study of the mind is great. And I found out how God does God's work. God works by law. Dr. Werner von Braun was asked by President Kennedy what it would take to build a rocket that would carry a person to the moon and bring him back safely to Earth. Now, Dr. von Braun was the father of the space program. He said the will to do it. Get an image in your mind and hold that image. Well, of course, it happened. It was believed for a long time science and theology were antagonistic. Well, if you study it, you'll find out they're not. In fact, von Braun, who was the greatest scientist in the world, he said that after years of studying the spectacular mysteries of the cosmos, he was led into firm belief in the existence of God. He said the natural laws of the universe are so precise that we don't have any difficulty sending people to the moon, and we can time the landing with the precision of a fraction of a second. He said these laws must have been set by somebody. See, the law is God's modus operandi. We've got to start to understand the laws. Most people do not. The next one is expect an abundance. You know, I was in the movie The Secret, and with a number of other people. Over 500 million people saw that movie, The Secret. And The Secret talked a lot about the law of attraction. Well, you only attract to you what you expect. Expectation is a mindset. And as you build that mindset, you set up the law of attraction. Expectation. The next one is the classic, the law of vibration. Think of this for a moment. This little phone, it's actually a computer, isn't it? This operates by the law of vibration. That's how it operates. See, every level of vibration is referred to as a frequency. Our phone operates on a frequency. When I was a little boy, we never had a phone at our house. I was probably 15 years old before we had a phone, maybe 16. I even remember the first number. It was Oxford 3137. And the phone we got was a party line. When you picked up the phone, you could hear everybody else. They were picking up the phone. There might have been 100 people on that same frequency. Today, we have millions, literally millions of people all have their own phone. They have their own frequency. I've got a frequency of my own, and you have one of your own. Why didn't we all have phones back then? Because we didn't understand the law of vibration. We didn't understand these laws. We didn't understand frequencies. But you see, we do understand it today, and because someone understands the law of vibration and knows how to program this thing to operate on a specific frequency, I can communicate to you and you can communicate to me. In fact, we're communicating right now on a frequency. Well, I want you to think of this for a moment. This body you're living in operates on frequencies. That's right. It operates on frequencies. And as you start to understand the law of vibration, you can start to take control over your life. Most people don't even want to study it. That's how we leave that for the scientists. And if they go to look at the law of vibration, they would probably dig into a scientific book. I didn't get this from the scientists. I've got it on a very practical level where a child will understand it. And when you start to understand this particular part of this program, of this master class on Born Rich, we'll show you how to develop your riches because you are born rich. You have deep reservoirs of talent and ability within you. And we'll show you how everything in this universe operates on frequencies. Everything operates on frequencies. We have to get on to the frequency of the good that we desire. You'll say, is this too heavy for me? No. I teach this to children. And I teach it to adults at the same time. The adults don't get bored, and the children are fascinated. When we start teaching the law of vibration, you are really going to start making headway. The success of your business is dependent upon your understanding of that law. Then we have the risk takers. If you were raised like I was, you were probably raised with the concept it's better to be safe than sorry. I'm going to tell you something, that is an outright lie. It is not better to be safe than sorry. People that play it that way, they're playing it safe, they go through life like this. It's one dull experience. Life should be an exciting adventure. It should never be a bore. If you're not taking a risk, you're not winning. I think Helen Keller, the blind lady that taught us all so much, she said, if life isn't a risk, it's nothing. And she was right. Well, we get into the risk taker, and you're going to love it. You're going to absolutely love this part of the mastermind or of the master class that I'm teaching. You should get into this. I don't care what you have to do to get into it. Make up your mind you're in it. The next part is the razor's edge. Well, I'm going to tell you something. The line that separates winning from losing is as fine as a razor's edge. There was a movie made on that. Daryl Zanuck taught the movie, was director of the movie. In fact, there was a center page spread in Life magazine way back many years ago when the movie first came out. Had all the actors and then all the stand-ins. And it showed the difference in their income. It was vast. One person would be earning $75, the other person earning $75,000. The difference in them was as fine as a razor's edge. And as I look back in my life, the change that took me from where I was to way ahead in life, it was as fine as a razor's edge. In fact, it took me 9 months to figure it out. The change was so simple. It was so simple and so obvious, I was missing it. Now, you can benefit from what I've studied. I've studied this subject now since 1961. Every day. I'll guarantee you in this master class, everybody in this master class, you're going to develop friends. We're going to have people in the master class from all over the world. You're going to develop friends that will last a lifetime. You may do joint ventures with them because you're all going to have multiple sources of income. The razor's edge. Well, I'm going to tell you, it was a very small change that I made. It changed everything in my life. It's like here, just let me take a look at that again. It was like that quote. I want to make sure I got it right. To the world, you may be one person, but to one person, you may be the world. Such a small play with words, but such a great change in the meaning, isn't it? The next one, the second last one, is in don't think in reverse. Have you any idea how much time people spend thinking about the past? They spend so much time looking into the past. Now think about this for a moment. The sand in the top of the glass represents the future. The sand in the bottom of the glass represents the past. Now you notice the sand is running here. You cannot get it back. It's gone. The sand right here in the center, right here, that's all we have to deal with is what's right here, right now. You know, there's an interesting story to this. When I was a little boy, my grandmother used to always be saying, I'll soon be gone, dear, I'll soon be gone. Grandma acted as though she just had a little bit of sand left, when actually she had a lot. I think when she started to say that, she would have probably been around 60. And to me, she was a very old lady. I've since changed my attitude about that. But she was a very old lady, and she'll say, I'll soon be gone. Grandma lived to be 94. 94. She just went to sleep one night, and the angels came and took her away. You see, she thought she just had a little bit of sand. She had a lot. I chummed around with another young guy named Bob Yates. We were 16. Bob was driving in the Kingston Road Highway into Toronto, and he ran into the abutment of a bridge. His life was snuffed out like that. If you had asked Bob a half hour before that accident how much sand he had left, he probably would have said a half a century for low. He didn't have a half an hour. So here's Bob at 16, probably thinking he had a lot of sand. He only had a little. Grandma at 60 thinking she only had a little. She had a lot. The truth is, you don't know how much you got. Neither do I. But I'll tell you one thing. We have an obligation to live life to its fullest. Help as many people as we can. Do as much good as we can to ourselves and others. And all we've got to deal with is what's right here, right now. Don't think in reverse. Quit looking backwards. What did Steve Jobs say? You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. That's where most people spend all their time, connecting the dots, living in the past. Get off into the future, where you don't know what's up there. That's what makes it so exciting. You will love it when we get into this. In the last part, but certainly not the least, the vacuum law of prosperity. You see, nature absolutely abhors a vacuum. You must make room for the good that you desire. You've got to create a space for the good that you desire. You have no idea what you're capable of doing. I know I don't have any idea. I'm forever trying to figure out just what I'm capable of doing. It's a marvelous way to live. Well, this master class is going to change lives. There's just absolutely no question about it. We're giving you the book bound in leather because we want you to treasure this, and you are going to treasure this, just like I'm doing with the one that I've got bound in leather, that I've been studying now since 1961. We want you to treasure what you're going to get. I'm going to show you stuff in here that'll just make your head spin. You've got so much going for you. Now, some of you say, well, I can't afford it. I want to talk to that for a moment. If you're saying you can't afford to do this, I think what you should do is ask yourself, how many other areas of your life does that show up in? How many things is it that you would really love to do, but you can't afford it? Do you know most people never in their whole life drive the car they would really love to drive? They never take the trips they'd love to take or shop for the garments that they want to wear where they want to shop. Never buy the house they would love to live in. Why? Do you know there's no end to the amount of money you can earn? I'll tell you one thing. If you have trouble putting together the money to do this, it'll be the last time you'll have trouble putting the money together. I'm going to show you how to solve that problem forever. Now, I used to say if I had to borrow the money from my grandmother to get what I really wanted, I'd borrow the money from my grandmother. That's where I used to get the money when I didn't have any. And I always paid her back. If you have to borrow the money from your grandmothers, do this. Borrow it. You will be so glad you did. This is going to be one of the most phenomenal experiences that you'll ever have. And I'm going to tell you, in all the years I've been in this business, I've never done something quite like this. I'm really looking forward to this. It's going to be a phenomenal class. I've been studying all this stuff. Well, I've been studying everything that's in this book that you're going to learn from for 36 years. It's classic material. Listen, just make a decision right now, you're going to do it. You see, I learned in here, successful people make decisions very fast, change them very slow, if and when they change them at all. The only prerequisite, something you're going to learn for making a decision is, do you want to? If you want to, for God's sake, do it. You will be so glad you did. And I'll look forward to working with you. This is Bob Proctor. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this video. We put a lot of good information up here, and it causes everything in your life to get better. If you'd like us to notify you every time we put a new video up, hit subscribe and then turn on notification. Check out all our videos, and we will notify you when we put a new one up.